well, I don't think God owes us anything. I think we betrayed him, and he's getting his revenge on us.
I'm sorry that you have been convinced of something so absurd that you are willing to shrug off your own self-worth for what can only be described as monstrous. Clearly, the God you believe in is not morally good.
If you had children and they betrayed you and say they slapped you in the face...
Sure. Would I throw them in the basement and torture them forever? No, because that's immoral and wrong.
What do you mean? If they're your children, you made them, they're supposed to love you.
Do you think it would be okay for you to throw your children in the basement and torture them for the rest of their lives because they don't love you and because they betrayed you?
This is by
analogy to the Christian God. Do you think that's morally correct?
Well,
Matt's making an analogy to the Christian God.
Think about it some more, Bob. We'll talk to you later.
I really do agree with those who would say, you know, slavery is inconsistent with who God is.
How can they possibly say that if the only thing that we know of what God reportedly is this book that describes his character and portrays what his commandments are, what his wishes are? How could anybody possibly claim that this is inconsistent? I mean, people try to claim that. No. Also try to claim that you know, that he's just a loving God. Well, the entire Old Testament is pretty much a comedy of God's errors and anger. He creates two people, sticks them in a garden in the most absurd situation, says, don't eat from this tree. I realize that he was probably a first-time parent in this scenario, but I think even the dumbest parent would know what was going to happen there. And so he has to punish them and exile them. And then the whole world goes to hell shortly thereafter. And so he picks out, you know, the most righteous man in his family and decides to build a ridiculous boat which isn't seaworthy and couldn't hold all the animals. And then he's going to flood and kill everything except for this family, at least if you go for a global flood, which we know scientifically just is absurd, and no other civilization seemed to notice this global flood. So it must have been a local flood, which doesn't actually solve the problem of sin. And then right after Noah, you've got a couple hundred years where they do this massive population growth, and they're building a Tower of Babel, which I don't know why a God would be, even the slightest bit bothered. This was clearly the mindset of these ancient people, that God lived somewhere up in the sky, even though, modern theologians say, no, that's not it at all, because clearly we can, travel to the moon. I don't know if we waved to God on the way past, and that fails and falls apart. And so then God decides, instead of trying to save everybody, he's just going to pick out his one favorite tribe, who happened to be enslaved, and I'm pretty sure they should have realized that there was a problem with slavery, and goes through this incredible scenario of, we're going to give all these plagues, and every time Pharaoh wants to actually let them go, God comes down and specifically hardens his heart so that he can show off a bit more. Oh, no, I want you to let him go, but I'm not going to let you make that. He violated Pharaoh's free will. It's explicitly there. No. He hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he couldn't do it, gets all the plagues out of the way. Then these 3 million Jews, for which is no evidence that they were ever enslaved in Israel or in Egypt. There's no commingling of. And by the way, if they held hand to hand, the number of Jews that were there, they could have stretched from Egypt to Canaan in the first place. They're led across, all these miracles and everything else. Miracles that would wow anybody living today. They get to Mount Ararat. Moses is gone for 40 days, and those guys say, screw that God, we'll make another one. This guy can't do anything right. And yet he specifically chose this universe where he knew he was going to have to keep failing and keep killing and keep failing and keep killing until he picked out his little special group and sent them around to keep failing and keep killing. And then there's this empty period, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to take human form, come down, sacrifice myself to act as a loophole for rules that I created that I can't circumvent. I mean, it is logically absurd.
As well as, Bill Maher, who's considered a leftist, the statements they're making. Now, I agree, I'm not denying that there's problems and, terrorism and violence and all that, but when they associate these problems with a culture and with an entire group of people, of 1.5 billion people, do you think that this is inherent to the culture and the religion itself, or do you think that
first
this
of all,
I part of the U.S. agenda and part of the the U.S. Propaganda machine to pump up the Americans, in their attacks against the Middle East?
So first of all, I'm gonna at least reject part of the premise, because while Bill Maher is wrong on any number of things, and may in fact be wrong in his commentary on Islam, I don't think I've ever seen him or any of the other people who are accused of it actually say that all 1.5 billion Muslims are the problem. As a matter of fact, most of them tend to go out of their way on occasion, because this is a frequent criticism.
But they associate like 20-30%, and that's
because that's what the numbers are. That's what the numbers are. If you look at the statistics for how many Muslims are in favor of Sharia law, how many Muslims thinks that apostates should be killed in specific countries, it varies from country to country. It's worse in Jordan and Egypt than it is in Israel, etc. Those are the numbers. Now, are they inaccurately representing statistics? Probably. It happens all the time. I wouldn't expect, I think almost anybody's going to end up misrepresenting statistics. There's no easy way to talk about this. And the problem, hang on. Part of the problem here is that you have a whole bunch of people who are identifying with the same label and the same holy book, and this applies to Islam and it applies to Christianity, who have different views. And if they're not taking steps to distinguish themselves from each other, then they don't get to complain that they got a little paint on them when we're painting the problem. I have one quick question ahead of time. Have you changed your position on the Bible and slavery?
I'm aware that many people believe that God supports slavery in the Bible, and He even tells the people how to deal with slaves. But I think there's a misconception about slavery in the Bible versus the slavery that you see going on in the transatlantic trade.
Okay, stop, because not only did I give you this information, I specifically addressed it. If the Bible says you can own people as property, is it moral or immoral to own people as property?
If God says no, it is not.
Okay, stop. Hang on just a second. It sounded to me like you said that whether or not it's moral depends on what God says. So if God says slavery's okay, then slavery's okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you give your...
But let me say this, though. But let me say this. Please let me say this. There is no commandment in the Bible where God says, thou shalt have slaves.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I'm going to go ahead and let you make your argument for the existence of God. But you might, after we had this conversation and after you looked it up, you are so desperate to make excuses that you will sacrifice your humanity and your morality and say, nope, slavery might have been all right if God said so. That is absolutely disgusting. G-Man, hello.
Yeah.
You don't think it's dishonest to only focus on Hebrew slaves and claim what you said was, the Bible says you have to let slaves go after 7 years, and what I showed you was that you were only talking about Hebrews who owned other Hebrew slaves because that rule only applied to fellow Jews. You portrayed it as the Bible's position on slavery when in fact it was the Bible's position on Jews. It was a special set of circumstances for them, and it includes a loophole by which you can enslave them forever. And you don't find that it was dishonest to say that?
Wait a minute. There is no loophole. There is no loophole in the Bible that says that the...
I'll bet you a paycheck.
That's how you interpreted it.
No.
Loophole. But can I present my evidence?
No, actually, you can't present a damn thing just yet because I already provided you the passage. I'm not even going to look it up. It's Exodus 21, and after it says that you must let them go after serving 7 years, it says if they came in with a wife, that wife leaves to them. But if you gave them a wife, and they come to you and say, I don't want to leave my wife. You then take them before the elders of the town and they say, I love my master and I want to stay with my master. You drive a spike through the air to mark that they are yours and they become your property forever. The Bible describes exactly how you can enslave your fellow Jews forever. And that is get them single and marry them off because their wives and their kids remain your property if they didn't come into the slave situation with them. That, my friend, is an absolute loophole, which I already told you about.
You are going to disagree on
then you're wrong. You're wrong, and you're done. It is blatantly written there, word for word. Move on to your argument for the existence of God.
Now, the police force exists. It's a necessary force to keep criminals away. Yet there exists corruption in the police force, and they do things far worse than the Catholic Church. And mind you, these pedophiles would have done what they did.
Pause. I'm going to let you finish. Pause.
But we do not.
I put you on hold in case you didn't hear that. Nobody can hear you but you right now. So you're
We
paused.
cannot get rid of a necessary system.
You're still yelling into the phone.
Yeah.
Sir, I do not want to have a shouting match.
You're not having a shouting match with anybody except yourself. Your ass is on hold.
That would be most appreciated.
You don't understand. If you would pause for a second, I'm trying to explain to you that you're on hold so that I can respond to your nonsensical position here.
No, sir, no.
Wow, you don't know what hold means. I'm going to give you exactly one more chance to actually have a conversation here, which is a back and forth, and you're gone. The police is a necessary organization, and it's worth reforming. The Catholic Church is not a necessary organization. It is a nonsensical organization. A bunch of fat, lazy do-nothings who have been living off the public dole for centuries. The fact that they can do good is a testament to the fact that there are good people who will do good. But the organization is corrupt. It is poisoned to its core, and it serves no essential good purpose, no true purpose. It's lie after lie, promoting harm to real people, and you can sit there and engage in histrionics and yelling at yourself on hold all you want, but the Catholic Church is not a force for good, and fuck you for saying so. I got an email here. I'm not going to read it, and I'm not going to give you the name, but it's from a 15-year-old who's having doubts about their beliefs. This is one sentence. I read the section about the historicity of Jesus, and I noticed half the stuff he used didn't add up to affirmations of Christ's existence. But I didn't research anything more because I'm scared. Scared out of my mind that there's a possibility that I'm wrong. And I feel like a heretic just thinking about it. Anybody who says that this simple little indoctrination is relatively harmless is a liar. You're naive. I'm not going to go as far as some other people have done, saying that all religious instruction is necessarily child abuse. I'm a fan of teaching religion, all religions, because I think it teaches us more about who we are and who other cultures are. I'm a fan of teaching the Bible because I kind of like studying the book and the history of the book and the things that are in the book. And it's useful because typically I know more about what's in the book than the people who bother calling. But when you indoctrinate someone, when you dogmatically teach someone something, when you burn it into their brains, you basically create someone who is now scared to assess the possibility that they might be mistaken for fear of torment and torture. The mafia boss analogy is not even remotely unfair. If anything, it's far too nice, because a mafia boss couldn't possibly torture anybody forever. It drives me nuts the way this stuff goes. But
let's go on to Matt. You there?
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Matt. Hey, love the show.
Thank you.
I want to thank you guys again for the show. I spent the first 30 years of my life pretty much completely blind, having been raised in a Christian environment. My parents are still Christians. They have no idea. And in the past 2 years, I've done just an insane amount of reading and studying.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me how much more I read and learn now than when I was actually in school.
Do you have other close personal friends that you can talk to about this stuff?
My roommate is actually an atheist, so we lived together for several years and just never actually discussed anything to do with religion. I knew he was an atheist. He knew I was a Christian. He's, extremely...
You didn't hate him, did you?
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
No, we got along great. But he has no interest in being active or anything else. He believes what he believes, and so be it. So there was never any issue there. And my conversion, for lack of a better word, came strictly from my own interests. I would read something, and it could have been, something off the JREF site. Having been a magician for years, I always had an interest in that. I'd read something, and that would send me somewhere else, and before long, I'm reading the entire works of R.G. Ingersoll, and it was a long process to actually get to the point where I think my brain actually woke up, and I don't mean to be insulting to Christians by saying that, but that's just the way it feels.
Yeah.
And so normally I TiVo you guys and watch it at night, so I can't call. But today I'm watching it live, so I figured I'd call, and who knows, maybe you'll hear from me again. But I'm working on some stuff along the same line, and I hope to see you guys soon. I won't be able to make dinner tonight, but I'll definitely be running into you.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks for the show.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling.